Hello, everyone. This is Jimmy Kimmel. And folks, something happened this week that's so spectacularly stupid, so perfectly predictable, and so completely Trump that I actually had to read it 3 times to make sure it was real. Just like that. And Trump thought Europe would panic. He thought they'd come crawling back, begging for American protection, willing to pay whatever he demanded. But here's what actually happened. Europe said thank you and signed the biggest defense deal in modern history without America. So before I break down how Trump just handed Europe exactly what they wanted, how American defense contractors just lost trillions, and why this might be the dumbest strategic blunder in presidential history, hit that subscribe button right now. Because this story is about what happens when you think you're calling someone's bluff, but they were never bluffing. Let me explain what Trump actually did, because the details matter here. Trump announced that the United States is withdrawing from the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, the military alliance that's kept Europe and America together for 75 years. His reasoning? Europe isn't paying their fair share. They're freeloading off American military power. They need to respect American strength. Classic Trump logic. Threaten the alliance, demand more money, assume everyone will fold. Except Europe didn't fold. Within 72 hours of Trump's announcement, Europe made their own announcement. The European Defense Union, a $2 trillion integrated defense structure, already financed, already operational, ready to deploy immediately, not proposed, not under consideration, already built. And here's the part that should make Trump's advisors physically ill. They invited partner countries to join as full members: Canada, Japan, South Korea, Australia, Norway. Every single one of them said yes. So Trump thought he was forcing Europe to pay more for American protection. Instead, he just watched Europe build the largest military alliance in modern history, and America isn't in it. This is what happens when you treat strategy like a real estate negotiation. You assume the other side needs you more than you need them. But Europe had been preparing for this exact moment for years. While Trump was threatening to leave NATO, Europe was quietly building the alternative. And the second Trump actually pulled the trigger, Europe activated a plan that was already complete. Let's talk about what Europe actually built, because this is where American defense contractors are absolutely losing their minds. The European Defense Union isn't just a new name for NATO without America. It's a completely integrated defense structure with unified command, shared procurement, and domestic supply chains that bypass American contractors entirely. $2 trillion, that's the initial commitment. But analysts are already projecting this could grow to $4 or $5 trillion over the next decade. And American companies just got locked out of all of it. Let me put this in perspective. Last year, American defense contractors exported roughly $90 billion in weapons and systems to NATO countries. That number was projected to reach $120 billion within 5 years. Those projections just became worthless, because it's not just about current contracts. It's about the next generation of fighters, the next generation of drones, the next generation of missile defense. All of that was supposed to be American technology sold to European buyers. Now it's European technology sold to European buyers. When Germany buys fighter jets now, they're buying from Airbus or Dassault, not Boeing or Lockheed. When Poland upgrades tanks, they're buying from Rheinmetall, not General Dynamics. When Italy needs missile systems, they're buying from Leonardo, not Raytheon. And the partner countries, Canada, Japan, South Korea, Australia, they're not locked into American systems anymore either. They can buy European, they can buy from each other. They have options they didn't have a week ago. American defense companies just lost access to the most lucrative defense market on earth. And it happened because Trump thought he was playing hardball when Europe was actually playing chess. Now, here's what makes this so beautifully devastating. Europe didn't come up with this plan over a weekend. You don't structure $2 trillion in 72 hours. You don't coordinate 8 governments in 3 days. Europe had been preparing for this quietly, methodically, for years. Every time Trump threatened NATO, European defense ministers were in meetings. Every time Trump demanded higher payments, European finance ministers were structuring deals. Every time Trump treated allies like protection racket clients, Europe was building the alternative. They were running the numbers. They were negotiating with partners. They were doing everything necessary to make sure that when America finally walked away, Europe wouldn't beg. They'd move on. And Trump's withdrawal didn't surprise them. It freed them. Because here's what most people don't understand. For years, European leaders wanted to build independent defense capabilities. They wanted to reduce dependence on American weapon systems. They wanted control over their own security decisions, but they couldn't, not while NATO existed, because NATO's structure meant that any major European defense initiative had to be coordinated with Washington. It had to use American systems. It had to integrate with American command structures. Europe was locked into American military dominance, not because they chose it, but because the architecture of the alliance made independence nearly impossible. Trump just unlocked that door, and Europe walked through it so fast, it's clear they'd been waiting with their bags already packed. Let me talk about the partner countries, because this is where you see how strategically Europe approached this. Canada, Japan, South Korea, Australia, Norway. These aren't random choices. Each one fills a specific gap in the supply chain. Canada gives them access to rare earth minerals and advanced materials that were previously dominated by American suppliers. Japan brings semiconductor manufacturing and precision engineering that's essential for modern weapon systems. South Korea offers shipbuilding capacity and missile technology that rivals anything America produces. Australia provides critical minerals and geographic positioning in the Indo-Pacific. Norway brings Arctic expertise and energy resources. Each partner was chosen specifically to minimize American leverage over the alliance's future. And notice what's missing. No countries that are economically dependent on China, no countries with authoritarian governments, no countries that would give America any way to disrupt the alliance through economic pressure. Europe didn't just invite partners, they chose them to make sure America can't interfere. And here's what should really concern Washington. These aren't countries that Europe had to convince. Canada has faced Trump's trade threats. Japan has questioned America's commitment to the Pacific. South Korea has worried about American troop presence. Australia has watched American foreign policy swing wildly. These are countries that were already looking for alternatives to American security guarantees. Trump didn't create an opportunity for Europe. He created an opportunity for every American ally that's been nervous about our reliability. And Europe gave them all an off-ramp at the same time. So let's talk about what this actually means for American power, because the consequences are staggering. First, the military bases. The United States currently operates over 70 military installations across European NATO countries. Ramstein in Germany, Aviano in Italy, Incirlik in Turkey, RAF Lakenheath in the UK. These aren't just symbolic. They're logistics hubs, forward operating bases, the infrastructure that allows America to project power into the Middle East, Africa, and Central Asia. And every single one exists because of NATO agreements, agreements that just became void. Europe hasn't announced base closures yet, but give it 6 months. When you build an independent defense structure, you don't need another country's military taking up your most strategic real estate. Second, the defense industry. American defense contractors didn't just lose sales, they lost the research funding that keeps them ahead of China. The development costs for the next generation of technology were supposed to be partially covered by European purchases. That funding just got cut off. Third, and this is the big one, the dollar. For decades, the dollar's dominance was supported by 3 pillars: America's economy, control of energy markets, and role as security guarantor. Trump just kicked out the 3rd pillar. When countries don't depend on America for defense, they don't need to hold as many dollars. They can procure in euros. They can finance in euros. The structural demand that kept the dollar strong starts to erode. We're not talking about the dollar collapsing next week. We're talking about a long-term shift, the kind that historians will point to decades from now as the moment American financial dominance began its decline. So let me bring this full circle and explain what just died. Trump thought he was negotiating from strength. He thought Europe needed America more than America needed Europe. He thought threatening to leave NATO would force Europe to accept his terms. But Europe wasn't at the negotiating table. They'd already left. They'd already built the alternative. They were just waiting for Trump to give them permission to use it. He gave them that permission. And now we're all living in the world that decision created. American defense companies just lost trillions in future revenue. American military bases are operating on borrowed time. The dollar just lost one of its fundamental pillars of support. And the alliances that took 75 years to build are being replaced by structures that don't include us. This isn't just bad policy. This is a generational strategic blunder. Trump wanted to make America great again. Instead, he just made Europe independent, and that independence is permanent. You don't build a $2 trillion defense structure and then dismantle it because Trump loses the next election. Europe is done relying on American protection, and they're taking our allies with them. Thanks for watching, everyone. Hit that subscribe button. Share this with anyone who thought Trump's NATO threats were smart strategy, because we just watched America's global military dominance end, not through defeat, not through decline, through one president's catastrophic